All right, here it is.
And we're live. Hi, everyone out there on the internet.
Oh,
thanks.
Hello.
You guys need to be the response to when I say.
I was waiting for a response from the internet.
Are on the internet.
I was waiting for a response from the internet.
Does someone have their YouTube on?
there is no way I would do that twice, surely.
Let me bring it up. For a second.
It was me. It was me.
Okay, so there's a big way you'll do it twice. First up, what's everyone drinking tonight?
Who are you starting with?
Your choice. You can start.
Okay.
I can start. Okay, I'm still playing around with screen size here. I should just stop and focus on the... Well, I've just cracked a tin of the about to be released new sour ale from Moondog that was dropped off today, socially distancing, obviously. John Straub Van Dam, a strawberry sour ale. So I've got one of those, but then I have a backup if we go on too long of a glass of Pachamama Pinot Noir, because we got a bit of supply in to support Callie from Pachamama, who has a young baby. And my wife's been drinking her way through the rate or not, so I figured I'd better get in before they've all gone.
All right, doubling down. Dave, what do you got going on?
I got a can of Pride Weiss.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, a little bit more bitter than I recall, but it's great.
Well, what's life like on the beach for you?
In Hawaii. Aloha. I'm drinking...
Salt Life Will, that's great.
Let's see what this does here. Last Rain Wild Triple.
Yeah, is that an old one?
Well, it says vintage 2016, but I think it would be more like 2 years. I think that would have been in barrels for a long time, so it would be 2 years old.
Now,
tasting excellent.
Chatting to both Will and James today, I was on the impression you guys were going to coordinate your screens for a hilarious Jake. And I can see
we've decided we're going to save that for another time, basically because I was caught up putting the kids to bed and I've only just made it in time. So, and also I felt, as this was a campaign catch-up, we should still have the poster at some point, on show.
I thought you just decided...
one of you just hang in can, that's all. That's cool.
Just hung Will out to dry. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll do that. Great idea.
I think it's something that we'll be developing over time, but also you put us in diagonals anyway.
We've got a lot more meetings.
I don't think I can control the panels. I can't.
Oh, right.
So,
okay.
You're going to have to just work it out. I've got a Red Hill Christmas ale because it's a little bit cooler today, and this was in my fridge.
Fun.
The most recent Christmas?
Yeah, Belgian Abbey Ale. I don't know a heap about it. Anyway, I'm probably going to enjoy it because I really enjoy their beers.
Do they change it up, or is that pretty typical from year to year?
James, you've probably drank the most of them.
Thank you very much. No, I'm assuming it's the same recipe they've been doing every year since day one, and it was one of your countrymen gave them the recipe back in the day. And so it's a traditional sort of Belgian, I guess, double potentially. Always lovely. We did a blind tasting of them once. We did a Christmas ale blind tasting. Were you there? I still had time to do Party Pint blind tastings, and we chucked in every year of them going about 7 years, and we found they deteriorated until a point, and then the two oldest ones were on the way back up again because they'd started developing some other interesting characters.
That Christmas tasting was probably one of the worst drinking experiences of my life. Lots of spicy beers.
I'm glad to have put you through that. I've had a few experiences. I remember when we did Golden Ales a while ago, way back when Golden Ales were a thing, and we probably lined up about 15 or 20 of them. And I think Josh from Moondog was one of the tasters, maybe Miro. And I think sort of halfway through, Josh was like, this style is all about stripping out the hops and stripping back the malt, so you've got nothing left. This is just the worst style of beer. And the world was like, well, we've only got another 12 to go. Strap in and have fun. And I don't think they did.
The beer world agreed with Josh, it turns out.
Yeah, and the only ones that stuck around are the ones that aren't like Golden Ales. So there you go.
What has stuck around? I can't think of a Golden Ale off the top of my head.
Venom, which actually is Will's mate's go-to beer.
Right.
He almost got a tattoo of it, I think.
Yeah.
That's strong.
We'll ask him. I told him to tune in. He's in quarantine in Sydney at the moment. He's in the Grand Hyatt.
All right.
Oh,
He
He's one of the
yeah.
first people in lockdown.
Can he use some of his 90-degree credit a day to get some Venom Golden Ale delivered?
No, you can get Han Premium Light for $12.
Hang on.
Okay.
I don't know about this. So people in lockdown can only have, like, they can order beer, but they can only get certain beers.
Well, I don't know how it works for his situation. Is they have a $90 allowance to spend on room service a day, and you can spend that however you like.
$90 a day on room service probably doesn't get you much, does it?
No.
No.
And when I first heard about
sounds all right, but I mean, room service.
When I first heard about it,
yeah.
when I first heard about it, I suggested you could like hold it over for a couple of days and then have a party, but apparently it's 90 days and it resets every day. So you got to either not
Scott
eat.
Morrison is a good man, but he's not a great man.
Oh my lord. Will Zabel, Scott Morrison is a good man. Direct quote.
That'll come back to bite me.
I know, in his cash stage, the two don't really go together.
I like I'm interested in finding out more about quarantine allowances. I'm going to do some research on that. Hey,
yeah, well, the interesting thing that Gus doesn't know, he's got a quarantine for 14 days in Sydney, but then if he comes back to Melbourne and flies down, will he have to quarantine for another 14 days when he gets to Melbourne?
He's hoping he doesn't. If he went to Tasmania, that would be quite clear, but you can just come to Victoria at the moment, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, are there like
2 weeks is a
domestic
long way
travel
into the future.
rules at the moment?
Say again?
Are there like ironclad domestic travel rules for
certain states, but not for all of them? It's more for the other states stopping people from New South Wales and Victoria going to them.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
Because that's where the numbers are.
So how's everyone's week been? Is everyone sort of holding up at this point?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be. I mean, our lives are pretty good. I mean, I'm working still, so like I've had a minimal adjustment. I mean, the biggest thing I can bitch about is going from just my laptop to up to a second monitor. So my life's great at the moment. I can't complain at all.
Okay. I've managed to get Wi-Fi boosted into my caravan now, so I never need to see my family again.
Yeah, was that the goal?
Ideal.
Yeah, well, it's certainly working for this. So that's been a highlight of the week. Generally tired, but I'm hoping that'll sort of, is just that will ease off. I actually had my first conversation with someone this afternoon where they started talking about life in the hospo world after post shutdown and the plans they had to sort of commemorate certain things, which I shall keep quiet for now. But that was interesting. That I do think there is happening a bit of a sort of rapid readjustment to where we are. And things are still horrible, and they will be for a while. But I think people, the human nature has an innate desire, I think, to sort of adjust to things. So that was kind of interesting. I didn't really realize at the time, and then after I was like, that's someone already looking ahead to a post-pandemic booze world, and what it might look like. So that was kind of interesting.
So that probably brings us to the Keeping Local Alive campaign. You can see the logo on your screen. You can see the poster behind James there. Beautiful. How's it all going? Can you give us a bit of an update on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going. It's keeping us busy, and along with checking what government support we might be valid for to make sure that we stay alive. But yeah, so we've had. When did we last speak to you? I think there's been have we had any media coverage last time I spoke to you? When the Daily Telegraph article been out by then? Can't remember now. So
I think that came out on the weekend, didn't it?
A week ago?
Yeah, possibly. And then we've got so all being well, you can never guarantee these things, but Callan Boys at the Sydney Morning Herald is planning to do a piece on the impact of the shutdown and the pandemic on the beer industry this coming weekend. So I've been giving him a few tips on who's doing fun and interesting stuff, and I think he'll have a chat to us and have a chat to IBA and check out some of the funkier drive-throughs. Hopefully he'll catch up with like Toby and the Cherry Tree with their wild ute and everything. And then I guess the main thing we'll probably start pushing is we've got someone working on footage at the minute for a campaign video. So we've got about 20 odd people from around the country. We're given a script to record that's currently being cut into a bit of a sort of talking heads video about why it matters and the impact it's all been having and what have you. I think there's more material for an outtakes clip than there is for the actual real one. Although Will, who I believe is online with us tonight, as you'd imagine, Will from Van Diemen Pro nailed it. I think that was the first one I sent through to the editor as well, and I think he was expecting everything to come through that quality. He was like, this is great. This is great stuff, James. And I was like, oh, I've only actually given you access to one video, not all the rest of them. Lots of but so yes, that should be really good when we get that together. Hopefully, we're ready to go by tomorrow or Thursday. I think having something like that's useful to sort of get the campaign out more, especially when everyone's online. So that's been a bit of a focus at the minute, and then I don't know, just trying to work out what comes beyond that. And also it tends like there's like the stories that Will's been, we're trying to do these daily or almost daily postcards from the Edge stories. We could probably do 5 of them a day at the minute. There's so many ideas from people coming in about what they're up to. So there is, there's plenty happening of a positive nature. We did that one story with Hamish from Rocky Ridge just to remind people of the flip side and just how rough it is for business owners out there and how many people are out of work. We're still getting those out of offices where you send someone a message and it's like, sorry, I no longer work here, which is pretty heartbreaking. But we'll just keep plugging away. And I think outside of what we see and what we control in terms of putting stuff out there, I think it's just taken on a life of its own, and people have started, Instagram, challenges where they tag 5 people to sort of, go and buy some local beer and say what they've got. So it's doing what I suppose it was meant to do, which was create something that's just an idea out there for people to take hold of. So it's going to be on that Cheeky Monkey beer soon. Bright Tank Brewing in Perth have asked if they can put a lager out called Keeping Local Alive. And we just see it as open source. So we've just said, yeah, go for it. So I think it's just going to, the message will keep spreading whatever we do.
Great. I haven't actually read that story yet about Rocky Ridge. Will, can you give us a bit of an insight into that story?
Well, I didn't write that one.
Oh, I think you said you did.
That was actually a James. That was actually a James Smith.
Okay, James, can you
but
give us
I mean,
I know Will can rate it out of 5.
5 out of 5. Obviously Rocky Ridge also had Harlene's in Bustleton, and then the other cellar door as well, close to the centre of Perth. So he sacked 20 out of 23.
Stood down, I believe, is the term.
Yeah.
Your sack is a bit harsh.
Well, I'm on the side of the workers, but and it's definitely something everyone can read. It's just Hamish going through the motions of what that's like, particularly in an industry that we're in, where you're such close friends with the people who do actually work for you. You do work with them, but when there's no way you can keep your venue open, when you're in the business of social gatherings, then it all becomes pretty hard as well. And it's been interesting. I've been calling, people the last couple of days to do the next few ones, and now that the wage subsidy that was announced yesterday has come in, there's definitely a change of tune, but there's still a kind of issue of people might be able to employ back their staff, but you don't necessarily know what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
If typically they're front of house staff and your venue has to remain closed, then where does that kind of leave you? You can't just deploy everyone into being a delivery driver at the end of the day, or to being working the food or anything like that.
So
that's kind of become a change more recently.
It's my understanding that even if they're not employed, as in if they're not doing a job, but they're employed, they can still get that $1,500 fortnightly subsidy. Is that not accurate? Or is that something we don't know?
I think they have I guess that technically if they're still on the books, they would get the money. So I guess you don't have to make them do anything. That would make sense. I mean, this isn't
a law yet. Like at the end of the day, it still has to go through Parliament. There's still, I think there's still a lot of things being worked out within it to kind of work it out. It will pass Parliament, but it's still being worked through.
A lot of people out there trying to make sure they lose 30.5% business and nothing more.
What's the time frame for the Parliament one? Are they recalled Parliament next week? Is that? Does anyone know?
I'm not sure, but the law doesn't come into effect until May 1 anyway.
Yeah. If you're out there in the comments and you know, I guess, more about when Parliament's going to be voting on it or anything, let us know, because it's such a confusing time trying to stay on top of everything, isn't it?
Yeah, particularly every state's doing things differently. Every state, every territory, local government grants, breweries and bars and venues exist in so many different planes as well, in terms of being manufacturing, in terms of being venues, and it's hard to keep abreast of every single change.
The official word from
I also think, I also wonder if people overdosed on so much news in the last couple of weeks that they're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we need to wean ourselves off this now and go and do a bit more gardening or whatever. So maybe people aren't quite as on top of everything as we.
I don't think there's not many people alive who are so used to one story dominating their lives for such a long time. We're normally used to moving on from a story by now. This has been a major story in everyone's life. If you look at the newspaper, the domestic news section everywhere, they've got one thing in there because there's not much else that anyone can give attention to.
Yeah, it's weird. If there's a major news story, you can kind of leave your house and forget about it for a couple of hours, and at the moment, you can't really do that.
Leaving your house is a reminder of what the major news story is.
Yeah.
What are some other stories?
Well, I wouldn't mind throwing out as a bit of advice here with the new no more than 2 people gathering. So Tara and I had a idea that to try and bring a bit of sort of community and fun into people's lives, where we were going to make some invites up, which was going to be tricky because we haven't got a printer, and even if we wanted to print it out, all the printer ink is sold out for time to come, and put it through the letterboxes of the houses around us and across the road. Get everyone to send us a few songs, make a playlist, and say to everyone at 5 o'clock next Saturday, just come on your front lawn and we'll blast out some music, and everyone can socially distance, sort of be neighbourly. But now I'm wondering if that would see me in prison, or whether that's still regarded as okay because you're not bringing too many people together. So the All My panel, my judge and jury, do you reckon we're still safe to encourage some front lawn?
You have to imagine that your property of your boundary it would come into play, right?
Yeah. So you reckon we're still safe?
I would probably put you in jail.
I would caution against it. Yeah.
I mean, I just put you in jail before that anyway, just for
Just
society.
based on the music choice.
No, but I'm going to open the music up to everybody. See, I'm a very open-hearted person at times.
I think that would.
Will Tatchell says just don't exhale, which I suppose as long as we keep breathing in, we'll be fine. Hi, Dominic.
Dominic, I'd like to know about your coffee beans as well. What you're roasting, because I'm curious about home roasting. That's probably a discussion for another time. What other stories has the Crafty Pint got in the works?
Well, every day I mean to start by sitting down and working out a plan for all the postcards and which order we'll do them. But then we have to keep shuffling, as more stuff comes in. But I think there's other stuff we mean to write. I mean, that's been one of the things we've been working out is there's so many things that we would normally do that aren't relevant anymore. There's no point talking about, there's no new venues opening. There's little point doing stories on breweries if they're not open.
I'm chomping at the bit to write a travel piece. I would love to be able to. Normally I write one every second month, and I haven't written one since November.
Going on in Hawaii there, Will?
Yeah.
No. So our plan was that in the lead up to Easter, we would run a feature on every single bushfire impacted region and visit all the breweries there and encourage people to go, if they could, over the Easter holidays to go and visit them. So I was going to go and stay with Chris and Gab at Sailor's Grave and visit the 3 out in East Gippsland. Will went up with his girlfriend / designated driver and did a whistle-stop tour of the high country and called in on everyone up there. And then it was 3 days before, or was it middle of last week? I was like, we've got this story ready to run today. I'm not sure there's much point. And they were like, no, just hold it. So like all those things are out. So that's one of the things we've been working out is what stories are still relevant. And actually, I'd say, if people have got any interesting or fun like people stories or things that we can do other than reporting on what's happening with the sort of COVID situation, then that's the kind of thing we're trying to switch towards, because just so much of what we would normally do, like new venue listings or brewery listings, events, like our events diary now is only for online events, really, like stream stuff. So there's been a bit of a rethink as to what we need to do. I guess we've become partly now a campaigning platform for local beer, which I guess we always were in a way, but now there's a greater focus on that. And then just trying to work out what the hell other stuff we do to, keep people entertained and informed and no point doing that. No. So it's a funny one.
Just touching back on the people drifting away from just being soaked in the news updates. Do you think that those other non-relevant stories are going to be important for people that just aren't interested in checking back in on everything related to COVID?
I think certain ones are, like, we're still going to do, we did our, Brew and A with Keelan from Stone and Wood last week. And I think, Will's got one coming up with Ash at Colonial. So I still think, stories about, I've been meaning to write one on Pete Meddings, who founded Bintani. Like, he's 75 this year. So we went and interviewed him for a bit of a craft beer heroes thing. So there's all those kind of things we can still do, I think we'll switch towards doing more educational pieces as well, because this is a good time to do stuff on what beer is and styles and that kind of stuff. But hopefully just as people get over the initial shell shock state, they are still going to want to be entertained and informed. So it's just been funny, like that breweries are having to adjust and bars are having to adjust their new existence, but at the same time, I guess anyone involved in the beer world, whether you're covering it or working in it, it's a big adjustment for everybody.
I was working on some really exciting stories which I've had to put on ice, and I think, like Will, I'm really itching to write them and get them out there, and that's it. Almost, I think it's partly why I wanted to start this, because it pretty much put a stop to all those ideas, and I couldn't really, you can't focus on them. I think that's the challenge for most people. Even if you're safe in a normal job, you still can't. It's hard to focus on that when everything else feels like it's falling apart around you.
Yeah,
especially when
I found focusing.
There's no consistency in some of the messaging coming through. It's like you can't really settle into a groove when you don't really know what the next 3, 5, 7 days is going to look like.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many jobs that aren't affected as well. Like even just that move into working from home is like such a different way to live, really, for so many people, that this is a huge shock to our culture in every possible way. So everyone's definitely feeling it, whether they've lost their job or not.
Yeah, well, I decided at the weekend that from yesterday back into as normal a routine as I could, get up before the kids get up, meditate. That was a waste of time because it made me realize how much my mind was racing. I don't think I actually switched off for a second or listened to what I was doing, and then just get back in, get a bit of exercise going. But it was just really hard to focus because you don't normally try and read about what government grants might support your business, or there's all these other things you're doing that you wouldn't normally do, so it just kind of throws you from the start. So I just gave up on that today and stayed in bed till the kids came and wake me up, and just went back to how it had been for the previous couple of weeks. But I mean, my mission is to try and get into some sort of whatever a normal existence can be when you can't go and do much, and I think that's, if you can, I reckon that's probably an important thing to do. Just like when we talked a week or so ago, not refreshing the live news blogs was a good move then, or the week before. And I think just whatever we can do for normality is probably worth it. But it's like Matt Beggs is just saying there, you never realize how much you miss sport. I'm into my sport, watch a fair bit of sport, whatever, but it is really weird to be looking through a news website, and even when you get to the sport, they're either filling it with pieces that you'd normally run at Christmas, or just talking about the impact of COVID on sport. Like there is just like almost everything of our lives has just been torn away.
How are you going keeping the kids engaged and entertained?
You should probably ask my wife that. I've just been trying to keep out of the way and then occasionally losing my rag and yelling at them. There's basically the house starts off reasonably nice in the morning, and then within half an hour it is just covered in every toy and plastic brick. Then they go and destroy the garden for a while. We take them out for a bit of a bike ride, but essentially it's going to be interesting to see how it is in a few weeks' time. You know, we've been and bought some more maths books for Matilda because she likes to swat out. Yeah, you know, it's like I saw some photos that Will posted from his brewery. He's got the 3 kids set up in the brewery shed, all with their workstations, and you know, it's kind of fun and interesting for a while, and hopefully it will stay that way. But it's going to have a weird impact on them. I think any child that goes through this and has to spend an extended period of time outside of normal routine.
Just got to come up in the comments. Do we expect the local sentiment to last past this? And James Davidson pointed out the bushfire sentiment only really lasted 2 to 3 weeks, and James is up there in Bright, so he's sort of seen it, you know, really, really firsthand. And that's an interesting point. You know, we touched on the bushfires before, and suddenly any part of that was swept from the news by this. You know,
I think the situation there, though, with the bushfire, it's not so much that maybe the sentiment just faded. This other thing came along that came into everybody's lives. I think if this hadn't been building in the background and before it became very much in our foregrounds, I think there would still be more attention paid to recovery. Like I said, you know, we had a series of articles that we'd have been running to remind people about, you know, supporting bushfire affected communities, but there's no point running them because people can't go and support them. Like there's other things we can maybe do, but I don't know. What will be interesting, I was chatting to someone about this earlier today, is if we keep on top of this reasonably well in Australia and we control the number of cases and we keep the number of deaths down, and there's a reasonably sort of smooth escape from its grip, is that some people will just go, it was bullshit, you know, and everyone's overreacting, and you know that's a greater fear of mine than people maybe not sort of. I also think people will have a choice not to feel something about this afterwards because everyone's going to be affected economically. Which will, you know, force people to have some sort of feeling about it, whether it's good or bad.
I think with I think it depends on how you sort of measure it. Like more people will be interested in buying local potentially if that message cuts through. But I mean, this is going to be far worse for local beer than it is going to be positive. Like when you look at the amount of people unemployed, the long-term debt, how many businesses are really struggling at the moment. Like this is only a net negative for the local beer industry. I don't think there's any moving past that really. Like we have to be honest that more people might find an interest in local beer, but more breweries are going to struggle than have been in the last 5 years or so.
Is it going to be the end of hype beers?
No,
not a chance. Not for a second.
People are still going to be doing 40 gram per litre double hazies, you reckon, even when this is done?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
They're still doing them now.
They're probably the only ones that are survived.
Just quickly,
I guess how else to get people back to your tap room, really?
Just quickly on the fire affected breweries, I dropped a link in the chat about so Saturday afternoon I'm doing a tasting with Bright Brewery, who James used to work for. We're doing a couple of regional breweries. We're doing Bright and Dollar Bill over on the Indie Brewers YouTube. So join us for that, and you can, and that kind of segues into my next sort of question for everyone, because Bright are now doing deliveries. So around Melbourne, you can get a case of mixed case of Bright beers delivered to your door. Check out their website. But
you might have to talk to Evan. So
you might have to talk to Evan, yeah. And that, you know, that's kind of, it's cool to see those brewers. You know, they're now kind of doing that delivery role, which I think so many of them would be really good at because they love getting out there and talking to people. A lot of the reps and the brewers themselves are having to do it as well. But what have we seen out there from places, your local places, doing deliveries or adapting? what are the fun things or the interesting things or the people that are doing it well?
Well, going straight back to your point right now, we got some wine and charcuterie stuff delivered from a local place, and the bloke that delivered it sort of hung around for 5 or 10 minutes just chatting because they still got the same passion for it, and they're getting that face-to-face communication they haven't had for a few weeks at least now. So yeah, I mean, it is like sparking those little um, moments of the passion they have for it right there. So it was fun to see, really.
Mm. Well, anyone local to you doing interesting?
Yeah. Look, Temple, my nearest brewery, they're 400-meter walk, maybe 500-meter walk from my place. They've opened up takeaway beers all the time, but they're delivering food within 5Ks and Canimals in 5Ks. They're, doing a lot to kind of bring their app offering and kitchen to your house in a very seamless and fun way.
A couple of my locals have sort of teamed up, Mr. West and Pie Thief. So now you can get Pie Thief pies delivered from Mr. West. They're doing a drive-through as well at Mr. West that's in an alley, so you need to pull up in an alleyway in Footscray, which is one of the dodgiest looking alleyways in Footscray, and someone will come out and hand you a brown paper bag of expensive wine or beer, which is kind of fun. And
it's interesting. James was saying there what the beer retail industry thinks about these direct brewery deliveries and online. And I know it was something that was raised when the IBA did their webinar last week. Johnny from Nomad and Experience It was sort of warning breweries about that. If you're going to switch that way, don't undercut your regular customers, who sell beer for you. So I think people have to be aware of that. But from what I'm hearing, and this is anecdotal as opposed to having done any solid research, like bottle shops and retailers are doing bloody well at the minute because, people are stocking up and buying a lot of booze. Someone was telling me that someone actually went to Mr. West the other day and bought $1,000 worth of wine. How long that lasts, because there's only so much booze you can have in the house unless you're a raging alcoholic. You can't have parties anymore. So, for the time being, so whether there's going to be this sort of initial spike where people go, yeah, we want to get behind our local retailer, our local brewery. I went past Moondog World the other day, but I only picked up a 6-pack and a 4-pack because I've been picking up stuff from every local business around here. And, you don't want to, have too much lying around. But I think everyone's doing, there's a guy who lives just down the road from us who's got Little Bertha Bakery, which... small world. Turns out he's mates with Adrian from Moondog because it's across the road from Moondog, and so he watched his business drop 90% overnight, and then they've switched to what they're doing. They've partnered with a bunch of other people to do deliveries, and their trades, really back up again. And they're not just selling their own stuff, but mixing with other people and combining other businesses. So it's it'd be interesting to see whether that happens beyond where we are now. Whether this continues beyond the period of necessity or continues in a lesser way. But it's making businesses probably more multifaceted, certainly.
Someone just pointed out in the comments that Newstead have started a providor for some of the smaller suppliers that don't have a direct route to market. And that's
I'm getting so many stories out of this.
And I've seen
Newstead have been kind of coming out with good idea after good idea in what's a tough situation for them, but they've been really ahead of the curve, I think.
I've seen some cafes, my local cafe, Small Graces, which I want to shout out because they're absolute legends and they make amazing food. They've switched to just completely grocery boxes. So if you need a grocery box, and I think a lot of places are doing that. I can't remember the name of the bar, but I saw they've done that as well. So, and it is that reason they've got all these suppliers that don't have a route to market. So let's get them out there to people.
Yeah.
My next question is:
do you remember though? There was a Bill Hicks sketch, early '90s. I can't remember which one it was, but he was talking about the spread of fear and bad news through American TV channels, and how we'd all retreat into our houses at some point, not because of a pandemic, because of fear and it get to the point where you're waiting there and the pizza boy's firing pizzas through your letterbox from the street. And it feels like in a roundabout sort of way we're kind of there at the minute. Just everybody's sort of getting everything, not even handed, but sort of left, and people scarpering as they're dropped off. Certainly interesting.
That's the other question. I think all of us love to support small producers, whether it's beer or wine or food. One of the big problems that I'm having at the moment is I want to support everyone, but I earn a writer's wage. I can't support everyone. How are you guys picking and choosing? How are you making those decisions?
Yeah, it's hard when and this is, I think, the situation facing everyone. No one knows how long this will go on for, and that's kind of the hardest part of that messaging, isn't it? And what we're all talking about, like, your job might be secure now, but if social gatherings are still restricted in December, then that is an economy that looks very different to the one that looks like if social gatherings are restricted in June. So I think you've just got to work out what you're willing to spend every week and choose either whoever connects to you most personally or whoever is closest to you and whoever is your actual local. But if you want the business to survive, that's where your money goes. The problem I have is that there's so many breweries and bars and venues that do great stuff, and you can't possibly buy everything from them because that's A, too much money, and B, too much alcohol.
You've just got
too much chicken, too many chicken wings. Like
you've just got too big a heart, Will. You need to sort of But I think it is. I feel that I'm sort of going through. I've done the radius around me now in terms of breweries and winery, and we've got a load of stuff, like I said, from Cali, Pasha Mama, Nick Molly Rose's missus, because they've got a young baby, so the more we can support them. But I think next it'll be like, okay, who's just, cause I guess, keep pushing out and go, next time I buy something and we'll go to them, and just sort of work out that way. Going back to the question before about whether this will stick, I hope so, and I think so, because it's given people more of a reason to sort of, yes, people are still going and fighting in the aisles of Dan's or whatever, but I think more people are paying attention to the message, not just in the beer world. But I know sort of friends of ours got in the Dan's battles a couple of weekends ago, but now I'm getting updates and going, we stopped into the Three Ravens cellar door and they're actually doing pretty well there. So I think, the message is getting through to people. Just make a bit of effort. Maybe you're going to have to go and shop at 3 or 4 places or whatever. But, it's kind of important to do it because, this is your local community where you live. These are the places that you like to go to. Now's a time that, make that bit of extra effort. And I think that potentially will stick on, especially if you go there and have that experience, where, like, pulling up to Moondog the other day, they're still putting stuff up, but, you get served by someone sat on a toilet roll throne while someone's there hanging Hawaiian leis over your head. And it's like, they're making the best of a situation. You're having a bit of an experience with them. You have that connection, and hopefully that sort of sticks with people.
Dave?
You guys are drinking more than you normally would?
No.
I'm not.
No?
My wife is.
Yeah, right.
I was tossing up whether to have a beer tonight because I've had tea Sunday, Monday when I was doing these, and I don't know. I thought with you guys I should, but definitely like weekends probably about the same, and yeah. How are you choosing who to support, Dave?
Steph is enjoying supporting the locals, and I'm trying to rein it in, essentially. So the delicate balance. Yeah, but but it's resulted in getting plenty of stuff locally. But because we've got more stuff locally, we probably drank more than we normally would have. Steph's on leave still, so I sort of understand that a bit more, but it doesn't take too much of an arm twist to get me to get involved. But it's been good, though. I've had some great stuff.
some insight from overseas. So my family's all in the UK, and they've been in lockdown a bit longer. And if you want to book a home delivery from a supermarket, you're having to book something like 3 weeks in advance to get a slot. At least where my family are in the Midlands. However, like the local butchers and the local bakers and local other sort of fruit and veg places have started doing deliveries, and you can get it straight away. So there's kind of that advantage as well, that if you're willing to sort of step away from going to the big guys who are overwhelmed, then you're getting that, and again, you're getting that personal experience, you know. So it's, you know, no one's going to be doing as well, or very few people will be doing as well as that they would have been doing otherwise. But I think, you know, the little guys are stepping in and helping fill a gap. Because, you know, my mum and dad could be in the house on their own for 3 months, the way things are looking in the UK. But they're, you know, they're looking to places they might not have looked before and getting a sort of better and speedier result. So
that's something that I've really noticed going to shopping at mostly the Queen Vic market or the Footscray markets. The produce there is stacked and plentiful. And versus Coles, last week I went and had a look at the meat section and there was nothing. There's only Beyond Burgers left, which was great because that's what I was looking for. But, you know, it's kind of a stark contrast, seeing so much panic and so much chaos at the supermarkets versus, and we certainly go to the markets early, but it's a nice, peaceful shop. We can get everything we need. And, you know, you're supporting the nature of a market is you're supporting half a dozen smaller businesses at once. So if you can do your shopping
there.
That's
the thing that I found, though, amongst the peak of the crazy supermarket situations was I went to Preston markets and it was fine. It wasn't like there wasn't a lot of people there, but there was produce and meat and dry goods, everything you could possibly want, and it was fine. So yeah, just those the big player supermarkets are copying the brunt of it, but you just look a little bit adjacent to that, and it's okay.
And more
Having
people
said
are
that,
out.
I went to Woolworths yesterday, and it was back to normal too.
Yeah, Will's asking, does it, you know, will it create a social reset around the local mentality that we need in the community? I think it is. You know, I think people are, to an extent, like people are looking at each other a bit differently. Hopefully, some maybe not in a good way, but most people I think are. I found when I was out, sort of either going for a walk or a run or whatever, maybe a week or so ago, there was a lot of people not wanting to look at anyone, which I found quite weird. But there seems to be a bit more of an openness when you go for a, you know, ride through the park or whatever now. I think everything's a bit quieter. Yes, it's kind of eerie, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I can't really go and do all the normal stuff, so I may as well take advantage of this hour and go outside and kick a ball or go for a walk and kind of go, you know, it's the, you know,
I've been going to the park
archaic revival.
I've been going to the park with the dog every day, and it seems like in the last sort of 5 days, everyone wants to make eye contact and say hello and just connect a little bit. Where like it was normally the opposite; they cross the street so they didn't have to walk past you. But yeah, everyone wants to say good day at the moment.
Yeah.
I've just replied to Will. There's still too many billionaires in the world for everything to go back to normal.
There's still a few months of this left, Luke.
Well, and people have noted how quiet the billionaires have been. You know.
Oh, they're just biding their time, knowing they can buy even more of the world. They'll come out even stronger.
Yep. Before we get down that rabbit hole, I think this is probably a good time to wrap up. Do you guys have anything you want to plug or add before we finish up? James, have you got anything coming up that people need to be
Oh, you know, I think if anyone sees anything interesting going on around, you know, other pandemic nature, the businesses adapting or whatever, or some fun, interesting stories, we'd love them sent to local@craftypint.com. So we've set that up as a purely sort of keeping local alive repository. Also, the hashtag is keeping local alive with an ing. I know there's keep local alive going around a bit. I don't use both, I don't mind, but we're trying to sort of build a bit of momentum around it, especially when the campaign, when the video is ready to go. I'd also like to shout out for Lallemand Brewing. Without being asked, they got in touch a week or so ago and said, look, you know, can we do anything to support the campaign? So they've, without any real questions asked, given us some money to help. We've basically upgraded the software that Luke's using for this. They're paying for the campaign video, and there's a few other things that we're going to have funded by them, so that we don't have to dig into too deep in, well, Crafty hours, but not Crafty's Crafty cash to get this campaign running. So massive thanks to those guys for their support, because it's, I don't know, not just the finances that help, but it's been actually quite an emotional boost to find someone coming in when most people understandably are getting in touch and very apologetically saying, look, we're really sorry, but got to hold on to all the pennies for ourselves. So just huge thanks to those guys for jumping on board the campaign.
If you have any stories that have nothing to do with coronavirus, my email is will@craftypint.com. I would bloody love to hear about them.
And also, and brewers keep sending beers to us. Like, we're still keeping as many things of the site relevant as possible. So, I think that's something that we can help with. If, as long as your beers aren't terrible, we'll write about them honestly. If they're terrible, we'll just not write about them and tell you honestly.
Just a quick plug for the things we've got coming up in the next couple of days on this channel as well. Tiff and Lindsay are doing couch beers with Behemoth. Behemoth/Chur. They've launched some sort of Facebook group. I'm not completely across what it actually is, but they're going to find all about what's happening across the Tasman, because they're even in harsher lockdown than we have been for a while. We've also got a foreign film with a stand-up comedy in Ian McNally from the Chosen Brew, and Nick Kappa, who's a stand-up comedian. That's happening on Thursday. I don't know what that is. I don't know how that's going to look, but I think it's going to be pretty fun. And a bit of a plug to sign up to the mailing list. If you click on our channel name and go to the main channel page, the top right, you'll see a mailing list. Please sign up to it's your dog. Please sign up to our mailing list. We're going to do a bit of a Zoom hangout on Friday night. Maybe, I can't remember what time I said, 7 or 8 o'clock. Nothing formal. We're just going to do a Zoom link and we can all have a few beers. And hopefully Dave's dog will make an appearance, because that's great what's happening behind you right now.
Did you notice that did you notice when the dog walked in and sat down, it said one more person was watching? Fucking really? YouTube is clever.
And we've got Quiz with Judd again on Sunday night.
I was going to say, it's not confirmed yet, but Matt is, but we're hoping, Will and I, this might be news to Will, we're planning to do a bit of a double header with Brewers next Tuesday evening. So with Matt from Boat Rocker to talk about anarchy and wankers at the beach, and also texting Scott Morrison, and then Keelan from Stone and Woods, because I think a lot of people will have the G3 counterculture beer in their hand by then as well. So that's the plan for next Tuesday. I think we'll get those guys on for a chat, and we'll put something out there to get questions from people in advance as well.
Tuesday or Monday, did we say?
I think you said Tuesday.
Oh, maybe we said Tuesday. Whatever one that is, the other one that is Monday. Dave and I will come up with something for
the other day. Who cares anymore?
We can do a different time if we have to.
Yeah. A lot more content on the planning. I'm really looking forward to the quiz show on Sunday night again with Judd. That was a blast.
That was an absolute gas.
Why don't we get graphics like he did?
It has a lot of work going into those graphics in the background. And that'll be, everything's at 8:30 at the moment, but we'll start trying to do more stuff at different times. I think we're going to do some educational stuff for hospo workers or brewery staff that might have a bit of free time in the day. We're going to look at doing some daytime stuff as well. So plenty of stuff on the cooker. I just want to give a shout out as well to James Balboni and Deb Lou, who are doing a Go Feed Me campaign for hospo workers. Basically, if your hours are cut back, or you're running short for your grocery bills, or you're completely out of work, they're putting together grocery boxes, and they're putting together really good grocery boxes as well. There's a lot of good food in them. Check out, there's a story on the Crafty Pint a couple of days ago, or last week, wasn't it?
Yep, last week. Yeah, we came up with the name Go Feed Me, but I'm happy to give it to them. It's all open source these days. A
little brag there from you.
It's being delivered now from Thursday. It was in the story. We mainly got that. It was originally.
Yeah, so they're having to do deliveries because of the gathering
Okay.
rule, social gathering
Yeah, it was
rules.
going to be a beer mash handout, but now it's door to door or something.
The email said 8:30 to 9:30 Zoom hangout, so that makes sense. I might make it a little bit earlier. We'll see how we go. We're making it up as we go along.
Fast and loose. I like it.
I've just
I would say, yeah, get onto that mailing list because a good example of that was the cooking show with Casey. So many tips and tricks and little recipes that I mean, if you caught it and remembered it, well done. But otherwise, we'll send that out in an email, and that's really valuable, I reckon.
Yeah, I haven't got that email. I haven't got those recipes in yet, but next couple of days we'll get on that email group. We'll get some really good chickpea tips. If you want to make chickpea curry or fried chickpeas, sign up to the mailing list because you'll be bloody eating your tinned chickpeas with joy.
I'd like a falafel recipe because the ones I currently have annoy my wife with the aroma, so I need to get a new recipe.
I've got a really good one. I'll send it to you.
Perfect.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow night. Cheers, team.
Adios.
Having us, Luke.